Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another guide with your host BioLaser. Today we're going to be making a series of videos and call this the ultimate survival guide to Rust console. Now we're going to be breaking this down in detail for those new players and for those who don't know what to do after getting their first base up. You know, a lot of people post up beginner's guide, how to get started and everything, and a lot of you have been telling me, well, what do? I know how to build the base, I know how to slap it up and everything. Now what comes next? Well, in this series of video, I'm going to be breaking down a lot of these stuff. For this particular video, we're going to be focusing on getting started, base locations, starter base builds, best early game gear to wear when you're roaming or doing monuments, and how to get your very first gun. Now let's just begin. Now, when you're going to start off on Rust, the number one thing that a lot of people forget is picking your server, as in, like, a lot of people don't talk about this very often. Now, there's tons of different servers. There's monthly servers, there's weekly servers, as well as there's Xbox only servers, and there's PlayStation servers only, as well as there's cross-platform. That means not only are you playing with Xbox players, but you're also playing with PlayStation players. I found this servers to be a lot more fun than the regular Xbox only or PlayStation only servers. How can you tell if it's a cross-platform server? It is very easy. If it has the word CP on it, that is more than likely means that it's a cross-platform server. A lot of times people would not would not look at this, and then they're just gonna go about it, and then it has to be in the middle of the parentheses. It has to say CP in the parentheses. Most CP or cross-platform servers that I found are all weekly, so it's a kudos, it's a good thing for you. All maps right now are only at 2.5 kilometer maps, so I don't know if in the future they're gonna make the maps bigger, but as of now, I would just say choose the server that you find it to be a lot easier for you, and then the next thing you're gonna do is just make sure to favorite that server. However, you could always go to the history list and then it will show you the servers that you have played on, but I would always suggest for you to favorite the server just in case. And now, boom, you're finally past the queue, you're in the server room. Now what to do next? Now, the number one thing that a lot of people will tell you is just run straight to wherever you're gonna build your base, and try your best not to farm on the way there. The only thing that you're really going to be gathering on your way to the base location where you're going to slap down your base is going to be to collect a lot of hemp or cloth in order for you to actually build the sleeping bag. What I suggest for you guys to do is just collect a lot of hemp on your way there, build sleeping bags, and slap down a sleeping bag every single, I don't know, 5 meters or something like that. Because if somebody kills you, at least you have a spawn point and you don't have to start back at the beach again. Now, this takes us to the place where I was talking about base location. Base locations is a huge thing on this game. This decision is going to determine where your wipe is going to be like. Now, if you want a wipe that has to do with a lot of PvP, a lot of door camping, a lot of things like that, I would suggest for you to make sure to build near the abandoned camp, near any launch site monument or abandoned camp. It's one of the best monuments. If you are more of a veteran, you know what you're doing. If you are a beginner, you just started this game, you don't have any blueprints or anything like that, I would suggest for you to slap down your base near the outpost. The outpost has a lot better defense mechanism compared to what abandoned camp does. A lot of people forget that outpost has turrets that could laser into people if they ever try to hurt you, and you could kill them. And if you see any of my series, that's literally what I end up doing. That's what a lot of people do at the beginning. What you do is you bait people into following you into outposts while they're shooting you, and then outpost shoots them. You run out there, you grab their gear, and now you just got paid, and they basically farm for you. This is a method that a lot of people like to use. I know I love to use this method on my series, and what can I say? I love it. It's a really good thing to do. Now, let's say you chose the place that you're gonna build. So for this part of the video, we're gonna say that I chose the outpost. Now, I'm gonna build a starter base in the outpost. This is a huge thing that people forget about the base or things like that in Rust. What I mean by that is that a lot of people feel like whatever they slap down, that is going to be their base for the rest of the wipe. That is what they're going to be upgrading. That's what they're going to be expanding. A lot of people would suggest for you to build a 2x2. A lot of people, there's tons of builds if you look up online, solo builds, duo builds, whatever build you want. There's tons of builds out there. My suggestion to you, if you're a solo player or even a duo players, I would suggest for you guys to build a 2x1. The most famous 2x1 that I've been using right now is going to be this one. I'll probably link it down on the upper right hand corner cards. I'll just put it down in the description down below. But it's a very easy 2x1. It's not that hard to build. You know, it is very compact, and I would suggest for you guys to use this 2x1, collect enough resources, and then you're gonna go slap down what I like to call main base. Just because you guys started in a base doesn't mean you can't abandon this base. That's kind of what the meta is right now. You built a little base, you gather enough resources, and then you just kind of abandon that base, and then you go build your main base. This way, you're not only attached to the outpost. So let's say you guys started an outpost, but you don't really want to stay there for the rest of the wipe. And then you're like, okay, well, I want to build more around satellite, or I want to build closer to launch site and things like that. You could always do that. You could always go slap down your main base over there. You don't have to stay where you built your beginner's base. This is why I suggest people to just build a 2x1. That way, a lot of resources wasn't spent into this base. Compare if you build a 2x2, then you feel more compelled to like honeycomb and things like that. And if something that I noticed is that if you built a 2x2, you're more than likely to get raided. Compare if you built the 2x1 near outpost, people are less likely to raid you because they feel like it's not worth the effort, and now they have to deal with the outpost turrets, and it's just not really worth the effort. So now let's say you get started, you build your first base, you got it going, you know, now you got to get Forge up and running. If you guys didn't know, if you collected enough scrap by breaking barrels on the roads, you could always go to Outpost and buy some low grade fuel. You only need 50 low grade fuel to build a furnace, and there is 25 low grade fuel at Outpost for only 5 scrap. If not, you could always go hunting in order for you to get fat, and if you fix fat with cloth, you're going to get low grade fuel. I would suggest for you guys to steer away from crafting low grade fuel, especially at early game where cloth is very, like I would say, it's a rare commodity, and it's not worth it for you to waste your cloth on that way. You could be wasting your cloth on making gear as well as bandages. However, if you guys want to get a lot of cloth and you're not finding a lot of cloth or hem around the base or around your area, I would suggest you guys to do the method of farming for animal fat and animal leather, and as well as cloth. The easiest way that I've found is for you to grab a crossbow or a regular bow, grab yourself some basic gear, head outside with a building plan as well as some wood on your inventory and arrows. Make sure that you have a bone knife. A bone knife, it only takes 30 bone fragments to build. If you don't have one, then bring a hatchet, a stone hatchet with you. And trust me, you're going to get bones by doing this, and you could always craft one. The reason why is because when you start attacking an animal, it's going to charge at you. If it's a bear or anything, it's going to charge at you. If you have the building plan and you slap down a twig, triangle or square or whatever, and you slap it down and you jump on top of it, the animal literally stops aggro on you, and it will just stand still and just lets you shoot him. And then after you kill it, you're just gonna harvest it. And if you're using the stone knife in order for you to harvest this animal, you're gonna get a lot more yield from the actual stone knife compared to the hatchet or any metal tool that you could use. Now, moving from this, you're going to get a lot of leather, you're going to get a lot of cloth, and now you're going to be like, okay, well, how do I craft this item? Some of them are asking me for a thing called workbench level 1. Now, a lot of people will tell you, oh, craft the workbench level 1. If you live near or right next to outposts, I would say save your scrap. Do not waste your scrap on building a tier 1 workbench. It is not worth it. Just skip that and go straight into a tier 2. Why is that? Because if you run into outposts, there is literally a tier 1 workbench right there. And if you live right next to it, you could literally just walk down. Nobody's gonna shoot you or anything because the outpost will protect you. I did this during my solo series of survival vlog. I didn't even build a tier 1 the entire time. I just kept using the outpost tier 1. Eventually, I had enough scrap to build a tier 2. I built a tier 2, and then I just slapped it down on my main base. Whatever you do, do not build a tier 2 and put it down on your 2x1. It is a waste of a tier 2. You cannot pick up a workbench back up. You cannot do that. It is a waste unless you're planning to stay on that base for the rest of the wipe. Then otherwise, I would say don't do it. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of scrap for you. Now, you could always run down there to the outpost, craft guns, craft whatever you need, craft gear, craft all that stuff. and you don't really need to have a workbench in your base. If you don't live near outposts, then yes, I would suggest for you guys to build the workbench. Now, good to go. You have a little base, you have things going, you have a, you have a workbench, or you're using the outpost workbench to build your clothes, your weapons, and everything. Now the game comes down to, what can I use, or what is the best gear for me to roam around during this level? I want to go out, I want to use my crossbow, I want to use my bow, I want to trade up, I want to see if I could kill somebody with a gun. What is the best, I guess, gear you would use in order for you to protect yourself against not only the elements, but people trying to murder you? Now, the best gear that I've found in this game for it to protect you has to be this layout right here. This layout I found out to be a lot better. Why? Because if you're out there farming for cloth or leather, you're bound to come across wolves, and if you find a wolf, you only need the wolf skull, and then if you use the wolf skull, with a bit of cloth, you're gonna craft, literally you're gonna craft the wolf mask, which is gonna give you a lot of projectile protection. This actual, like, I guess you could say leather or jacket, you could buy it off outposts as well, or you could just find it by farming. You don't need it. You could always, instead of using that, you could always use the bone armor that you could craft on day one. But I found this to be a lot easier because with this jacket, you could actually roam in the snow as well. If you have this layout is going to give you 95 projectile protection. That means projectile means shooting. Yes, when somebody shoots you, it's going to give you 95 protection, or 95% protection, as well as going to give you 49% protection against cold and 31% protection against radiation. This means you're going to be able to walk inside monuments like the Dome. You're going to be able to walk in monuments like Airfield. You're going to be able to walk inside monuments like Satellite, Harbor, and things like that. I would say the sewers, but as of right now, sewers is not in the game. If you guys didn't know, I have a guide for monuments, but tier 1 monuments, you're going to need 11 radiation protection, which you could get off crafting the regular basic beginner clothing, as well as all you need is 11% radiation protection for those tier 1. For tier 2 and up, you're going to need at least 25 radiation protection in order for you to roam around these monuments. Now that you have your gear started and everything, you're like, okay, well, this is cool, I like this. You might be wondering, well, this is too high. What is my second option of gear that I could wear? I got you guys. The next best choice that you could have is this setup. If you have this setup, I would say this is more on the cheap side of setup. This is more of a beginner, like you don't have a workbench level 1. This is like, you don't need a workbench in order for you to craft this armor at all. So this is like the very beginning armor that you could wear during the time that you're early gaming or early farming or early roaming. This is by far the best. I would say even the cheapest to craft on this level. So if you're farming a lot of leather and you're doing the trick, if you're playing solo or duo, this is going to be the gear that you're going to be walking around with. Now, for the next thing, how are you going to get your first gun? I have a guide in this channel. I will probably link it on the upper right hand corner. This guide is going to teach you how to get your very first gun in this game. It's a short, easy, straight to the punch guide. However, because there's a lot of missing monuments in this game, I would tell you the best way for you to get your first gun in this game is to buy it off Outpost. My suggestions for you guys will be to buy the double barrel shotgun. If you buy the double barrel shotgun, you're going to make a lot of plays with this. I have a short video on my channel that shows me killing somebody with a double barrel shotgun and basically trading up into an AK. The double barrel has a lot of potential and a lot of power, and it's very cheap to craft. My next option would be for you guys to get a hold of a water pipe, revolver. I'm not really a fan of the revolver early game. They're not really that great to begin with because people are running around with double barrels and they're just gonna blast you before you could even get enough shots in them, unless you're a god aimer and you could just land every single shot back to back. Then that's a different story. I'm not the best shooter, so I'm not even going to try to attempt that. Now, the other way that you're going to get guns, my second option would be for you to get some low grade, go on a boat, and then just start doing the monuments or the little scatter garbage that is in the water. You're going to find crates over there. You're going to find, regular like toolboxes in there. You're going to find a lot of barrels that you could farm scrap from and everything like that. This is another way, but it's not a certain that you're gonna get a gun out of this. A lot of times I do grab guns, a lot of times you won't, but the most, like 100% you're gonna be able to get your first gun would be outpost. So I would say farm enough scrap in order for you to actually come back and buy yourself the gun, and then have yourself, or one of you, if you're playing duo, one of you would have to learn the gun. Not both of you, one of you, because at the beginning you're having, not only are you gonna have to spend 250 scrap in order to buy the gun, but now you're gonna have to spend 250 scrap in order for you to learn the gun. If you guys know, an outpost, there is actually a research table. It is tucked away in the corner. I will show you right here on the visuals in the background where to find this research table. That way you don't feel like you have to craft the research table, waste scrap in order for you to slap it down. Again, you see why living right next to outpost is such a huge potential for a starter person, or just in general. If you don't have any blueprints, this is the best place for you to get started. Now that we broke down the list of things that we were going to talk about in the beginning, I hope that this guide helped you guys out. And the next guide, we're going to be talking about what to do next after you get started, after you have your base and things like that, and what is my suggested build when it comes down, if you're a solo or a duo, what is the best build that you could do in order for you to stay alive longer in this game. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed to the channel. Make sure to hit that notification bell button to be notified whenever I post another video, and as well as make sure to smash that like button if you did like the video. It really does help out the channel a lot. And thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys on the next guide.